Hi team. So today I want to talk about specialists and generalists. In a society that's now obsessed with specialization, pick a lane, stick to it, master it, niche down as much as possible. Are we losing something in society? What if that's not the only path, or even the best path to success and fulfillment in life? So my journey with the generalist specialist thing really started when I read the book Range by David Epstein. And it's an incredible book. And for me, it was really validating because this was the first time that I'd heard anybody talk about the fact that a generalist could be beneficial to society. I've always been a generalist at heart. I love my diverse range of interests and hobbies. I love the amount that I can get into the detail of multiple different things all at once. And yet society seems to frown on that these days. It seems to suggest that if you don't specialize and niche down, that you're somehow not paying enough attention, that you're not dedicated enough to get to the level of mastery and focus on a single thing. So I want to explore that in today's episode and see where this idea came from and what we can do about it. So with all that being said, let's get into it.
Thinking Differently with Andy Franklin.
So first, let's talk about the specialization system that we now live in. And I think this drive to specialize starts in our education system. Everything is carved out into boxes. And as you move further through the education system, at each level, you have to narrow your interests down and focus more specifically on certain ones. So in the UK education system, we start off with GCSEs. And at a GCSE level, you have to start specialising. You have to pick certain subjects and drop others. And as you move through into A levels, which is 16 and 17-year-olds, you have to narrow down even further. You have to pick a few subjects to really focus on. And then you go to university and you have to specialise even more. You have to keep narrowing down your field of interest. And there is a benefit of this in certain areas. So if your career or your job means that you have to have an immensely deep set of knowledge about a certain thing, then it makes sense to niche down. So as an example of this, you wouldn't want a heart surgeon who was just a qualified doctor. You would want a heart surgeon who had started as a doctor and then trained to be a surgeon and then specialized even further to be a heart surgeon. That gives you the best chance of success. And so it's not that specialization is wrong. It's that I think our society now overemphasizes the benefit of specialization over generalists. And I think they both have a place depending on the benefit that you're trying to create. And so other ways that this niching down, this specialization comes into place is through the social signaling that we give to people. It kicks in the workforce and the way that in order to progress within a job, you have to pursue a very specific set of skills. You have to say that you are qualified in a certain area. And given the emphasis now on jobs being our primary definition of who we are as people, I think that takes even more of a hold over us. One of the first questions that you're asked at a social gathering when people don't know you is, what do you do? It's a shorthand for how much respect do I need to give you based on your qualifications and your skill level. And again, with social media, all of that suggests that your primary goal should be to niche down, to be the specialist in a very specific area, and not be a generalist who has views on lots of different topics. And I think what we've lost is the benefit of generalists. We can all see the benefit of having an expert in a certain subject, but the benefit of generalists seems to have been lost by our society. And so Epstein suggests that generalists thrive in wicked learning environments. So the definition of this is a kind learning environment is something where the patterns are repeatable. So kind learning environments are things like playing chess or playing golf. There are a low number of variables and everything follows a set pattern, which means that if you're a specialist, you can focus and learn that pattern and get better at that one thing. Wicked learning environments, by contrast, are things that don't always follow the same course of events. You need to be adaptable and changeable and malleable to every situation. You need to be able to apply the logic that you learn over here on this one thing to this new situation. And this cross-pollination of skills, this cross-pollination of knowledge is what really stands out and makes generalists so important. And the example that he gives is the difference between Tiger Woods and Roger Federer. Tiger Woods played golf, so he specialized very early. He focused on just one thing, and that was the thing that he did from the age of 2. And that worked for golf. Whereas Roger Federer played tennis. But even though his mum was a tennis coach, before he started playing tennis properly, he experimented with lots of other things. He played basketball and football and had other training stimulus that overall made him a better tennis player because he would adapt those skills and he would move in a way on a tennis court that wasn't the way that people were taught. And so the benefit of a generalist is to be able to use domain expertise in one area and apply it to a different area. And this has multiple advantages. The first one is the outsider advantage. So if you've ever walked into a situation and seen the answer, but all of the people in the situation can't, that might be because you're using the outsider advantage. You've come into this situation with a fresh set of eyes. You don't know any of the problems that are getting these people stuck, and you're able to see it in a more objective lens, to be able to see the thing for what it is and find a solution that wouldn't have come up to the specialists because that's just not the way things are done. And this can look like creativity, this idea of out-of-the-box thinking. It's actually just applying different domain expertise to the problem that you're currently working on in order to innovate and create ideas that people haven't created before. And this did exist before. This was championed before. The idea of a polymath is one that gets bandied around a lot. The idea of the Renaissance man is really appealing to lots of people. And Da Vinci is always the name that comes up in this space. He was the epitome of a polymath, in that he had a general wide range of skills, but he also had deep knowledge in lots of areas. So he was a painter, but he was also an engineer, and he also drew incredibly detailed anatomical images of the human body, which helped advance medical science. And so why have we lost this idea of polymaths being a great thing? And why is it so difficult in our modern life to find that ability and to champion that ability? And the first idea that has been suggested is that there's just a lot more information now. It can take a lifetime based on the knowledge and the information that we have available to become a specialist in a single subject. So the idea of being a specialist in multiple subjects, of being able to spread yourself across multiple different areas, suggests that you're spreading yourself too thin. There's that phrase, jack of all trades but master of none, which suggests that you might be good at stuff, but you're never going to be a master of any. And again, that's quite a derogatory term. It suggests that if you don't niche down, then you'll never be a master and you'll never get the respect for knowing a thing. So it's hard to be seen as credible in any given area. It's also a lot more difficult now with careers. Trying to put yourself in a career box when you're a generalist is really difficult. And I even find it quite difficult to describe myself and what I do in my job, because even in my job, I'm a generalist. But if I was ever to go and sell myself to another company, I would have to pick one of those areas and say, I am one of these, and then demonstrate all of those other skills as kind of an aside from that. You can't really sell yourself as a creative person or as a problem solver. And again, because our society puts so much of our identity on our job and our career, it can also leave you with this sense that you don't really know who you are. Because when somebody asks you, what do you do? And you can't articulate that, it's almost like you don't have that easy shorthand to be able to put yourself in a box that allows people to judge you. And so polymaths fell out of favour because it was more difficult to be a polymath because there was more information. It was more difficult to get that level of mastery in multiple different subjects and be respected for that. There are still some people out there who manage to have a diverse portfolio of interests, but they're almost seen as the exception. And until they can prove themselves, they're still not respected. And if anything, they would have probably been frowned upon for jumping between multiple interests and subjects rather than focusing on one and paying attention to it. And yet the benefit of being a generalist is massive and understated. Creativity, new ideas, innovation, all of these things come from blending ideas which haven't been created or blended before. And so our ability to focus on multiple different things and have multiple different interests is even more important now than it ever has been. Because if we all just stay in our same lanes, if we all end up in this cycle of niching down and not knowing about anything else that's going on in the world, because you have to be the specialist in this area, the expert in one specific place, then all of the industries will stagnate. All of the industries will stop moving forwards because there aren't people who can cross-pollinate ideas from multiple different places. And then I started thinking about the way that AI may influence this in the future. I actually feel reasonably positive that with the benefits of AI and what AI can do and what it can't do, there might be in the future a resurgence of the idea of polymaths and the idea that we start championing them in society again. And this comes down to the fact that AI is really good at information. It's really good at knowledge. It can do a huge amount of deep research into a topic very quickly. And I was actually playing with Gemini last night, and it now has a tool on it where you can click deep research and you can ask it a topic and it will do huge amounts of research for you. It will scan lots of different websites and databases and come up with a full summary of research that it's done. And then for me, because I'm not a super fan of reading long documents of text, you can then get it to do an audio overview, or even you can chuck it into something else like Notebook LM, and it can create a podcast for you based on that information, so you can listen to it in a more human way. And so I go back to what I was talking about in one of my previous episodes about the difference between knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is the ability to amass facts, whereas understanding is the ability to apply that information that you know in a real life setting. And I think polymaths are great at the understanding piece. They're great at being able to take one thing and apply it in a different area, see the parallels, see the overlaps in the challenges that we're facing. Whereas AI is now really good at knowledge. It's really good at just looking at information and telling you that information in a digestible way. And so I'm actually really excited that potentially in the future, with AI as a sidekick, we might be able to combine our forces and use the creative genius and the innovation and the ability to make connections over multiple different things that humans are so good at, and where AI is strongest, which is all of the knowledge and the information. And this obviously plays out in the chess world. So chess, humans used to be able to beat computers. And then computers got much better at being able to process lots and lots of information very quickly. And then computers ended up being better than humans at chess. And that is mainly down to the fact that chess is a kind learning environment. Chess is one of those things which, once you know the rules of the game, there are only a certain number of things that can happen. The queen can't suddenly grow wings, fly across the board, and eat the castle. But what they've now found is that humans and computers working together are better than either on its own. And that's because the computers can do the knowledge bit. They can work out all of the potential moves. They can work out what the slight benefit of this move is over this move. But what they can't do is apply a different level of logic and understanding to that complex puzzle. And that's where humans come in. Humans are better than computers at strategy. So that kind of complex thinking of multiple different areas, multiple different understandings of the same idea, which might mean that although the logic and the rules of the game the computer can do better, the human might still end up being able to add an extra level to it, which is what we're now seeing in that humans and computers working together can beat any human or any computer on its own. And so my hope for the future is that the computers can do all of the heavy lifting with the knowledge, and then the humans can come in with the understanding and the nuance, which can potentially create this new era of polymaths where the human's ability to ask the right questions and make those connections will create a brand new environment where actually being able to connect multiple different topics at the same time might suddenly be seen as an advantage again, and not that you're just not specializing enough and that you're not focusing enough on a single thing. So maybe the future will not just be controlled by the specialists who have a really deep but narrow area of focus. Maybe we'll move away from having that championing of being able to go really, really deep but not know anything about anything else that's going on in the world. And we'll move closer to the idea where generalists and specialists can be equally championed within society, because people who can see more, can see broader, and can make connections are going to be equally important and valuable to a society in the future. And so I think what I'm saying here is that although there is still a place in society for specialists and there is still a benefit for that, we shouldn't ever lose sight of the benefit of generalists too. And if you are, like me, a generalist, you should take some hope from the fact that I think possibly the world might be changing. And you don't have to feel bad for the fact that you've never been able to find a certain thing that you can stick at and not think about anything else. Because in the future state, that might be an advantage that you just didn't realize you had until now. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on this. Are you a generalist who's struggled to find a niche area? Or are you a specialist who feels like I've missed the point around why we all need to specialize more? And with that, I'll sign off. Thanks for listening, take care, and I'll speak to you on the next one.